What's up everybody? If you that don't know me, my name is Chris, aka Mr. Grow It, and I'm back with another Q&A video. This time around I decided to do beginner questions. Last week I did intermediate questions. Next week I plan to do advanced questions. Well, maybe it might not be next week, it might be the week after that. I still need to gather more advanced questions for that. So if you actually have any questions that are more on the advanced side of things, leave them down in the comment section below and maybe I will include them in that video. But yeah, a majority of my audience is beginners and I get a lot of beginner questions, so figured I would dedicate this video to you beginners out there. Before we get into the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for this episode. Big thanks to Spider Farmer for sponsoring this episode. They recently sent me their new LED grow light, the SF7000. This thing looks pretty cool. I'm loving the color. They use seal diodes and an Inventronics driver. It pulls 650 watts from the wall, has an efficiency of 2.9 micromoles per joule, and covers a 5 foot by 5 foot grow space. A full disclaimer, I haven't used this light, this is just me unboxing it. I'm currently using the SF2000 and I've used the SF4000 in the past. But I do know several people who already have the SF7000 up and running in their gardens, and they're impressed with it so far. I will leave a link to the SF7000 in the description section below. Feel free to click on that link to learn more about it. And I also have a coupon code for you. Use code MrGrowIt5 for a discount, and that code works on both Amazon and the Spider Farmer website. It actually works for all Spider Farmer products. All right, now let's get into the questions. Hey Chris, just wondering, is 5.8 pH fine for soil? So far it's doing fine. What's your thoughts? Plant seems to be more compact and leaves are smaller than my last grow. Last was on 6.2 pH. So 5.8 pH in soil should be okay. Now, general range that you hear on a lot of websites and forums and everywhere is gonna say for soil between 6.0 and 7.0. However, a lot of these bags of soil actually come in lower than that. I personally use Fox Farm Ocean Forest soil. That usually comes in at like 5.5, 5.4 pH, and I usually have to water in at like 6.5 to 6.8 pH, and then it slowly kind of drifts up over time. The plant's able to take it. The plant uptakes nutrients just fine there. There are some growers out there that say that the range, instead of being 6.0 to 7.0 for soil, that it's actually 5.0 to 7.0 in soil. That's the kind of safe range. However, at different pH levels, there's going to be different nutrient uptake. There are charts online that you can Google search as far as nutrient uptake for plants, pH levels, search something like that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, the plant should be fine at 5.8 pH. You may just want to water in at like 6.5, 6.8 pH, and then it should drift up over time. What would happen if you grew a plant on 12-12 light cycle from seed to harvest? So I've done that before. Actually, I've done the solo cup challenge. What was that? 4 or 5 years ago now? So basically that challenge was to plant a seed in a solo cup, immediately have it on 12-12 light cycle for the entire grow. So what happens is the plant is going to spend some time in the vegetative stage no matter what light cycle it's on. So basically for the first 21 days or so, it'll just veg up. Then from there you'll start to see pistils or pollen sacs. You'll start to see signs of sex. It'll start pre-flowering and then flowering from there. So yeah, you can absolutely have it on a 12-12 the entire time if you want. It's not really recommended because the extra hours, if you'd put on an 18-6 instead, you'd have more light. It would contribute to more energy that the plant's receiving and therefore more growth in the vegetation stage. So yeah, you can do it, but you'd probably get better results if you would have veg on an 18-6 light cycle. Is it okay to add a single nutrient like calmag if I'm seeing deficiency on a water day, or is it best to wait for a feeding day? Oh yeah, you can absolutely feed in calmag on a watering day. So common practice, which I think is what he's going by, is the water feed technique when growing in soil. So you'll feed nutrients one time. Once the soil dries out, then you'll just feed plain water. Then once the soil dries out, you'll go back to feeding a nutrient solution, and so on and so forth. Yeah, a lot of growers, what they'll do is they'll do calmag every time, even on their watering days. So that's perfectly fine to do. And then there are some growers that just feed every time. So every time the medium dries out, they'll feed in, but they'll feed in at a lower dosage. So there are several different ways you can go about it, but yeah, short answer is yes, you can feed calmag on one of your watering days. Can I change nutrient companies in flower? I started with advanced nutrients, but now I am going to feed them Remo nutrients. You can, but there's definitely a little bit of risk there. Ideally you have the proper ratio of nutrients throughout the entire life cycle, and these companies, they have those proper ratios on their feeding schedule. It's just a matter of what dosage do you feed the plants. Now, if you're going from advanced nutrients, they have their certain formula. Switching to a different formula, it could potentially throw off that ratio. So it is kind of risky, changing nutrient companies mid-flower. However, you can probably get away with it. A lot of these formulas are pretty similar. There's just some small differences there. So yeah, you could probably get away with it. It's just a little bit of a risk there. I'd love to know in the comment section if anybody out there has done it before. Maybe somebody out there does do it and it's a common practice for them to change nutrient companies at some point in the grow. So comment down below if you do that. How do you feel about always watering coco coir with some nutrients or a tea? I've read in a lot of different forums that you should never water coco with plain pH adjusted water until it's time to flush. In my experience, nutrients can definitely build up in coco coir. Me growing in particular, there have been times where nutrients have built up to the point where I did have to do a watering in order to allow the plant to eat up those nutrients that were built up in the medium. And sometimes I had to do a couple watering days in order to reduce that ppm. Now, coco coir is an inert medium. That means there are no nutrients in the medium. So a lot of growers will feed in every single time. But again, in my experience, nutrients can build up, and adding a watering day in there once in a while in order to reduce the nutrients in the medium is just fine. Some would argue that even on those days we don't feed base nutrients, you should be feeding in calmag. Calcium and magnesium are common deficiencies when growing in coco coir, so a lot of growers will swear by feeding calmag every single time. Now, as far as reading things on forums, just be careful there, especially with older threads. Every time I look back at some of the older threads, I'm talking like from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, sometimes even like 6 or 7 years ago, there is some inaccurate information in there. So just be careful. Always do your due diligence, do further research beyond what you hear in forums. If I'm using Ocean Forest and Happy Frog mix, do I still water with nutrients or plain water? So when you're mixing those two soils combined, both soils do have nutrients in them to begin, so you won't need to add nutrients right away. Now, you'll probably start to need to add nutrients in 20, 30 days of the plant's life, depending on how often you transplant. If you're growing for 15, 20 days and you transplant to a larger container, well, then that fresh soil has nutrients in it, so you don't need to start feeding nutrients right away. So general guidance is 20 to 30 days roughly is when growers start to feed in nutrients, but you can get a more accurate picture by using a TDS tester and checking the ppm of the runoff. How can I talk with you without using Facebook? How about personal guidance? You can come onto my forum, mrgrowit.com/forum. I'm on there almost every day answering questions. Sometimes it might take me 2 or 3 days to get back to you on things. A lot of people posting on there. Pretty big community that we've built up over there. There's several active members on the forum that will go on there and answer questions. So it's not just me trying to help people out there. That's the best way. If you really want one-on-one feedback from me, really Patreon is kind of my go-to. I usually prioritize Patreon responses as the first ones that I respond to is Patreon messages. Then I'll go over to the forum and then start answering there. But yeah, if you try to message me on Facebook, if you try to DM me on Instagram, if you try to ask questions through Twitter, I send everybody over to the forum because, quite frankly, it's really hard for me to try to keep up with all these different platforms. So I send everybody to mrgrowit.com/forum and ask questions there. And that allows you to add more details. You can add in pictures, video, and I can sit down and give more detailed responses for you. I'm a new grower and I'm using liquid nutrients for my plants. I just wanted to know if I make a batch of nutrients and pH the water, how long is it good to sit for? You'll probably get a different answer from different people that you ask. So I actually asked this question to Rob from Blue Planet Nutrients. I believe he's one of the owners of Blue Planet Nutrients. His answer was no longer than 2 weeks. So if I mix up a batch of nutrients into a bucket, for example, I should use that within 2 weeks. Now there are other people out there that say it's way less than that. Some people say no longer than 24 hours. You want to lose that because those nutrients can fall out of solution. So your best bet probably is just to reach out to the nutrient manufacturer and ask them what they think, because their particular nutrients, they may have different guidance for you. What are some tricks that you use to improve smell and taste of your buds? So the smell and taste really come down to the terpenes and flavonoids that are located within the resin glands or trichomes of the plant. When you walk into your grow room and you smell the plant, that smell is actually the terpenes in those resin glands evaporating. Different terpenes will evaporate at different temperatures. But yeah, I think it's mostly going to come down to genetics, phenotype, genotype. I think environment is a factor, drying is a factor, the way it's cured is a factor. So all those different things kind of combined is going to determine your taste and smell of the buds. So if you dial in those processes, it should improve it. I'm in LA, it's pretty dry here too. Is it safe to put a humidifier with thermostat in your dry room? Absolutely. A lot of growers do that. They need to add a humidifier in there in order to increase the humidity in the dry room so the buds don't dry too quickly. Just a couple tips: make sure the humidifier isn't blowing directly onto the buds. Make sure that you have air circulation going on so the humidity doesn't reach so high and all of a sudden the stagnant air and mold can potentially happen. So I usually put an oscillating fan on the bottom part of my grow environment. Grow tent is what I usually use, and then air will be able to circulate down below and it kind of goes up. And I usually leave like the ventilation sock up top on the grow tent open so air will be able to exchange. Some people actually use an inline fan as well and put it on a low setting in order for air exchange. So there are a couple different ways to go about it, but yeah, you can absolutely have put a humidifier in your drying room in order to increase the humidity. How do you boost RH in a dry environment? I had 2 humidifiers going full blast in the tent and it could only manage 29%. Would an external humidifier help? Well, we just talked about that. Adding a humidifier will do it. So I'm jumping to an assumption here, but I assume that you have an intake fan exchanging air in your dry environment. So with 2 humidifiers, it being at 29%, I'm assuming you're just exhausting too much air out of the space. If you have a variable speed controller on the fan, you can reduce it down to like the lowest setting, for example. Some people actually don't even use an intake vent for air exchange. I personally don't. Like I just said in the previous question, I'll leave that top ventilation sock open. Sometimes I'll actually leave the tent cracked as well. And then I'll open up the tent once a day and completely change the air once a day. But as long as the air is not stagnant, adding an oscillating fan down the bottom. And then you also ask, would an external humidifier help? So I'm assuming what you mean by that is having a humidifier outside of the grow tent, for example, a dry environment, so the air coming in is of the proper humidity. Yeah, you can try that as well. That should definitely help. Is the Fox Farm 3-bottle system organic? Quick, easy answer on this one, no. How to resolve leggy seedlings? Most of the time when the seedling sprouts from the medium and it's coming up and it appears to be stretchy, usually it's stretching up looking for more light. So an easy fix is to lower that grow light so it's closer to the plant. That's one way to go about it. The other reason why it could potentially be a little bit leggy or stretchy as a seedling would be because the plant isn't receiving as much blue light. I feel like I've talked about this in a lot of my recent videos, but blue light inhibits cell division, leads to a closer node spacing on the plant. So I'm not really sure what light you have over the plants, but keep in mind that the spectrum could also contribute to it. Do you have your lights on 100% power or use a progressive method? So I personally do like to conserve energy where I can. I actually have a par meter. I have the Apogee MQ620 par meter. I actually also have their older model, which is the MQ500 par meter. And I use that in order to dial in my light distance. So oftentimes I am dimming the fixture down, trying to bring it pretty close to the actual plants. And then as the plants get older and larger, I am raising the distance, increasing the percentage. So I am able to dial down the fixture, use a par meter and dial in that distance a little bit more accurately. But yeah, generally, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who don't have par meters. They're so expensive. It's over, I think it's like $575 for the one that I have, which is kind of crazy. But just going by the grow light manufacturer's recommended light distance is generally where I advise people to start. And hopefully the manufacturer has correct light distances set so you don't, burn your plants or harm your plants. With the lights off temp, what do you like to run the room in veg and flower? Ideally, it would be 10 degrees lower, when we're talking Fahrenheit, 10 degrees lower than the lights on temperature. So if I'm running 82 degrees lights on temperature, 72 degrees, would be ideal for lights off. Now, if it creeps below than that, that's fine. The plant's still gonna grow. High 60s, even mid 60s. When we get into the low 60°F, you could see a stunting growth. And then also if you're having these large swings from 82 degrees down to 62 degrees, I mean, if you're seeing constant swings like that, that does stress out the plant. So you can definitely see issues if the swings are too large. But yeah, 10 degree, 15 degree swing Fahrenheit is ideal. Thanks for your videos. I was wondering on taking Oaksterdam online PACE classes. It's on sale $9.95. Do you recommend taking this course? So I personally haven't taken that course, so I can't recommend it. Oaksterdam University is a well-known university for cannabis cultivation. So I am pretty confident that you can receive good information there. I'm just not really sure what type of information that course gives. So I can't really tell you if it's going to be worth it or not for you, unfortunately. I wish I was able to help you out more on that one. All right, so a few things before I end this video. First thing is my beginner grow book. This is available paperback form on Amazon. It is a complete beginner's guide for growing both in soil and coco coir, indoor cultivation. And it's really just gonna give you a lot of general information that's gonna get you through your first few grows. So really, if you're in your first grow, second grow, this book is probably more for you versus I've actually had some people who have like 5-6 years experience. They buy it and they're disappointed because, well, there's beginner information in there. But yeah, I can't satisfy everybody. If you do end up buying it on Amazon, please leave a review. I'm looking to get 500 reviews on Amazon. Currently I have, I think, 225 reviews, so I have a long ways to go. Anybody out there that has purchased a book, it would mean a lot to me if you spent a few minutes to leave a rating, a star rating, or review on Amazon. That helps with ranking, helps more people find the book, so on and so forth. So thank you to all who have left a review or rating. One last thing would be the giveaway. I'm continuing to give away items here on every video until I run out of items. So these items actually I got from MJ BizCon. Never used them. I actually don't use any of these products from Grow Tech. So I've got a Grow Tech hat, 2 Grow Tech hats, which you'll get in this giveaway. Never used before. These are snapbacks. We've got some mycorrhiza and beneficial bacteria. Again, never used. I've heard a lot of good things about Grow Tech though, and their mycorrhiza in particular. So 2 of these sample packs. And then last thing would be a t-shirt. So this is a gray t-shirt with black lettering. Can't really see it's in the bag. I don't want to take it out of the bag. Never used it. This is a size large. To enter the giveaway, all you have to do is click the link down in the description section below. It'll take you over to Rafflecopter. That's what platform it's hosted on. Then you just enter in your email, and then there's other ways to enter as well. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please click that thumbs up, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.